guys, it's Carrie with Happy Fish Tarot. I want to talk with you today about the concept of putting yourself out there. There's a lot of different things that we could consider when we think about what this means. When I think about putting yourself out there, what I'm generally thinking about is going forward with any kind of act that makes you feel that you're exposing something vulnerable within you. This could include maybe doing any kind of creative act. It could include having a difficult conversation with someone. It could include expressing an opinion that you hold that is not necessarily in line with the majority of society's viewpoints. This is something that has been a very prominent theme in my own life for a long time. In fact, the very thing that I'm doing right now, making a video, makes me feel like I am putting myself out there. And it's not something that always comes easily for me to do. So I want to talk with you a little bit today about why we struggle with putting ourselves out there, but I also want to talk about why it's important, why we want to do it, and what some of the benefits are that we can get from finding the ability to go ahead and do so. I've always had this strange, contrasting desire. There's part of me that wants to know that I'm safe and secure and protected, but there's also part of me that always feels called to self-expression and to creation. And so I'm always kind of trying to face this tension and walk this dynamic line between maintaining my boundaries and feeling the sense of security that I want to feel, but also following the calling that I have to continue to express myself and to continue to let myself unfold. I know that in order to continue to become a more full and a more complete version of me, I'm always going to be called to put myself out there in new ways. One of my favorite quotes ever is from Anais Nin, and she said, "A day came when the pain of remaining tight in a bud was worse than the risk of blossoming." I think about this a lot when I think about the sensation that we get when we're feeling on the precipice of moving to the next level of self-expression or the next level of putting ourselves out there. I personally get this tightness when I think about putting myself out there and when I think about self-expression. And there's something within me that does want to remain tight in that bud. There's something within me that doesn't want to make the video, that doesn't want to have the conversation, that wants to stay in that place of security. And I use security in quotes because it really isn't all that secure if you think about it. Eventually, if you're feeling called to express something within you and you're not allowing yourself to move forward with that, the pain of not moving forward with that does become too much to bear, and you feel that you are not necessarily ready, but that you are needing to make the choice to put yourself out there. This kind of, for me, is the determining factor between when I know that I do need to go ahead and do something, even though I'm scared and even though I'm terrified, versus a time where maybe I know that I can let something drop and that I can go without self-expression in an instance. I know the difference because if it's something that truly wants to come forth from within me, then I'll feel that sensation of knowing that the risk of remaining where I am is greater than the risk of blossoming and letting myself unfold and putting myself out there for the next thing. It seems to be a pattern that I've seen with myself, and I've seen it with some other people as well, that we feel this calling to express something, but we also feel this huge resistance to doing that. And it can really take all the courage that you can muster up, and it can take a lot of inner work, and it can take a lot of self-love, and it can take a lot of compassion, it can take a lot of desire to live an authentic life in order to find that place within you that has the ability to do that thing despite the resistance, and to continue your unfolding despite the parts of you that want to remain tight up in your bud. The more that I have confronted this within myself, the more that I have realized there are some tips and some wisdom and some strategies that can help me make it through this kind of uncomfortable sensation of, on one hand wanting to put myself out there, and on the other hand feeling absolutely terrified to do so. One of the biggest things that I've learned about this process is going back to what I talked about earlier about the need to feel safe throughout this. When you're embarking on a form of self-expression, I think it's important to do it from a place of knowing that you get to choose how much of yourself to put out there, and that you are in control of the experience, and that you are in the driver's seat of your life. You do want to push yourself in order to continue to express, but there's really kind of a fine line between encouraging yourself to do something even though it's difficult, and forcing yourself to put yourself out there in a way that you're truly not ready to do in this particular moment in time. So I think you really have to develop a close connection with yourself, and you have to constantly check in with yourself to see where you are in that process, and to make sure that you're feeling challenged and you're feeling vulnerable, but in ways that are strengthening you and in ways that are giving you an open heart, as opposed to in ways that are making you feel unsafe and unsecure. Another thing that's been really important for me, especially since much of the self-expression that I do involves some level of talking about life lessons and offering advice and things along those lines, it's very important for me to wait to talk about something until I have fully processed it internally. I don't like to put things out there. I don't like to discuss lessons that I'm going through while I'm still in the middle of the storm. It's very important for me to give myself the opportunity to integrate what I'm going through, and to find the ability to get an internal navigation on the terrain that I'm facing before I start trying to put it out there and express it in blogs or express it in videos. Once I've had the chance to go through that opportunity and digest what it is that I'm experiencing, then I can find ways to put it out there in a manner that feels the way I want it to feel. Again, I don't want it to feel like I'm taking myself outside of my comfort zone and I'm sort of tearing myself off of secure ground, because it always, for me, goes back to that balance between stretching yourself while also remaining safe. So one of the ways that I accomplish that is by letting myself process something internally first before I put it out there to the external world. I have kind of a reoccurring joke with myself that what I do in terms of putting myself out there through blogs and videos and through any form of creative self-expression, it feels like getting naked. And this is something I know I've heard other people say before, this concept of exposing certain parts of yourself. It does feel very much that you are ripping apart some layers, and that you are tearing off your armor, and that you're letting yourself be naked and be seen in all of your glory. That's kind of what it can feel like when you're expressing something and when you're putting yourself out there. And I think we kind of live in a world where it can feel very odd to do that. Most of us walk around with so many layers of protection and so much guarding that it can feel very strange to take away those things that have been providing us comfort, and to let ourselves be wide open. But as difficult and complex and nuanced as this process can be, it also has the most rich rewards. When you are able to put yourself out there, you gain a deeper experience of life. You come more into alignment with yourself. You feel more harmonious. You feel more magical. You feel more authentic. Another thing that I've learned from the process of putting myself out there is that even though it can feel very vulnerable, and even though it can feel like you're very naked and exposed, usually what you actually accomplish through that type of vulnerability is gaining more strength, because you realize that you can strip away your armor and that you can put something out into the world and that it's not going to kill you to do so. You realize through putting yourself out there that you are stronger and that you have a tenacity to you that you didn't know was there until you really tapped into it. Due to the nature of what I do with my business, doing tarot readings and doing videos and blogs, I do often hear from people who feel that they're in this place where they want to express something and they want to put themselves out there, but it feels like the most arduous task and the most difficult thing they've ever faced to try to get themselves to move forward on that path. So if you're in that space, I would just say to you that going on this journey matters. You are a hero, and what you have to convey to the world and the gifts that you have to bring and the truths that you have to express, we need them. And it's one of the most important things I think that you can do with your life as a human being, to put yourself out there and to be heard and be seen. Stay in touch with yourself, know what your boundaries are, but also know where you need to push your boundaries and where you need to explore and where you need to help them expand. And you can find, only you can find, that middle ground for you between the safety that you need while also continuing to expand and continuing to expose yourself in new avenues. I think one of the last things I want to talk about is the main thing that holds most of us back is ourselves. We get so many ideas about the judgments that other people will pass on us if we put ourselves out there, or the failures that we think we're going to have, or how embarrassed we'll be, or what an idiot we're going to make of ourselves, or the list goes on and on and on. So much of that is simply stories that we create in our heads. And the important thing is finding the ability to not let those stories keep you locked up in a space that is uncomfortable and that is no longer serving you. When it's time for you to blossom, when it's time for you to be the flower that is unfolding, you need to let go of those stories and just go forward gently and see what happens, see how things unfold. And I think it's going to be absolutely beautiful, and I think you'll find strength and wisdom within you that is just waiting there, just waiting for you to plug into it. This is something I could probably talk about for many more hours because there's so many layers to this, and I've only just started to kind of scratch the surface with what I've gone over in this video. I think this is a topic I'll be discussing more about in the future. I would love the opportunity to make my thoughts a little more organized and cohesive. If you are interested in exploring yourself further and exploring what it looks like for you personally to put yourself out there, you can visit me at happyfishtarot.com. I have lots of blog posts. I offer private tarot readings through email as well as through Skype. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you before too long. Bye.